Hello! Today on Ramblings with Rebecca, we're going to not talk about Dar Si Hmad. Instead, we're going to talk a little bit about the PhD process. I did, in fact, promise a ramble. I don't know who I'm promising these things to. Do you guys really care? But whatever. I promised to ramble about the PhD upgrade process, particularly in the UK. So I will, and it will be good for me potentially to reflect on that. So here we go. The basic structure of a PhD in the UK, you can get it done in 3 years. The first year is spent on literature review and project design development. You come into PhD having some idea what topic you're looking at, what kind of question you want to address. You then spend quite a bit of time going through and combing the literature for everything that has been said and done on that topic to the best of your ability. Of course, there's always more out there as far as I can tell in academia, especially when you start looking at other languages and non-traditional forms of knowledge if you're looking outside of strict academic texts and that kind of thing. But the point is, you spend a good amount of time reading on that, synthesizing that knowledge, figuring out where the gaps still are, figuring out what you think is wrong or what you think is missing from what's currently there. So I've now done with that year. It was grand. Lots to say, lots to be done. I think I wrote probably around 80,000 words in various formulations, that some of which will go heavily edited into a publication at some point maybe. But lots of thinking, lots of reading, lots of writing, lots of pushing your ideas back and forth. And having conversations with your supervisor and other PhD students and hopefully other interesting academics at conferences and that kind of thing along the way to develop your thinking and figure out what you actually want to ask. Along with that then goes methodology creation, where you actually figure out, right, here's what I'm going to do, here's the exact questions that I'm going to figure out, here's how I'm going to do it, here's who I need to talk to, or if you're doing not human research, here's which bugs I need to collect, here's which cells I need to mix together under a microscope, whatever. You figure out what you need to do to answer that question. You then apply for your upgrade. All PhD students in the UK are registered first as MPhil students. MPhil is a master's by research, generally a 2-year degree. And then at the end of this year or so of your PhD, during which you're actually in an MPhil, you apply for the upgrade saying, yes, this project is substantial enough to require a PhD, not simply an MPhil, and yes, I have my stuff together well enough to go ahead and actually do it, and I want to be enrolled, not in the MPhil, but in the PhD program. You write up a report, which includes a substantial literature review based on all the stuff that you've been reading, a very detailed methodology. Here's what I'm going to do, here's when I'm going to do it, here's how I'm going to do it, here's how I'm going to access the people that I need to talk to, or here's how I'm going to get into the river gorge that I need to go into, or whatever. And then you submit this report along with, some other fancy paperwork to a committee, which is composed generally of your supervisor, your secondary supervisor, and some external examiner, which is a fancy way of saying someone who hasn't been working officially with you for the past year and a half or whatever. They all have a chance to read it, and then you have a meeting, and your committee will ask you lots of questions about it. It is kind of a very mini Viva in that it's kind of a defense. They may ask you, have you really thought about this? Why do you formulate nature in this way? Why don't you look at this author? I think you're missing this whole field of literature, whatever. They critique, they suggest, and at the end of it, hopefully, they say, yes, cool, you've done enough work, you know what you're doing, your methodology is sound enough, go ahead and have at it. And then you go ahead and have at it, and you find yourself in Morocco doing field work. Hopefully, inshallah, as we say in the Middle East, if all goes according to plan. That's what happens anyway. So my upgrade happened at the beginning of September, and it went really well, and I got some really, really great feedback, and that pressed my thinking. So definitely a very helpful process, and also, starting the jumping through the various bureaucratic hoops of the PhD process, but generally good stuff and very fun. So recommended if you're you're interested in doing a PhD, one of those things to not get nervous about.